The family iPad lit up on the counter with a Venmo banner I didn't mean to see. It said HX Babe, and the sender was our son's soccer trainer, the same guy who fist bumped me after practice and called me Big Man, like we were friends. I stood there in the blue light with a half-washed pan in my hands, and the words didn't go away. They sat there like a buzzing thing behind the glass. I tapped the screen before the banner could fade. It opened on Rachel's Venmo feed, which we used for split bills and pizza nights. There it was, from Coach Theo, the ex-babe. The note had a winking face, and for a second I hated that Pixela could be smug. Below it were other payments. Fundraiser reimbursements, 3 of them from Theo to Rachel in the last 2 weeks. Small amounts, then a bigger one. Under our joint credit card app on my phone, I just paid a hotel charge near downtown, one of those mid-range places you book for a conference. Seeing those side by side did something to my chest. It felt like a short circuit under my breastbone, a jump, then a heat that didn't have a name. "Hey," Rachel called from the hallway, "did you see my list? The bake sale needs gluten-free, like at least 2 trays." I locked the iPad and set its screen down with a careful hand. "Yep," I said. My voice sounded normal. That almost scared me more than anything. We live in Austin, in a single-story house that buzzes in spring when the cedar pollen kicks up and the whole city coughs. I'm 40, an electrician, the guy who gets called when somebody's breaker trips and the air goes out in the Texas July. You learn to move slow and steady with wires. You learn to find heat by the back of your hand. You don't put your fingers where you can't see. Those are good rules for houses. They are not good rules for marriages, but it took me a while to figure that out. Rachel is 37 and runs more PTA Google Docs than the school district. She gives off a kind of warm glow in rooms with fluorescent lights. People bend toward it. She's funny and quick, and she knows how to get people to say yes to pies and raffle tickets and working the concession stand in a heat index of 105. She also started the new fundraiser this year, a 5K for books, and the local club trainer, Theo, offered to run free Saturday clinics for the kids. He wore the same black cap to every practice and teased the boys when they tied their cleats too slow. He had a whistle that he blew with a little flourish like he loved the music of it. That night, I did not ask about the HS Babe. I washed the pan and pretended I didn't picture the hotel card charge like a glowing receipt. At 11, after our son Eli had fallen asleep with his knee wrapped in a bag of ice and an old towel, I opened Rachel's public Venmo again. It was right there. The reimbursements from Theo marked fundraiser, an espresso emoji, a shoe. "Thanks for covering," he wrote on one. 5 minutes later that day, on our credit card, Hyatt Town Lake. We had not stayed there. It looked like a wire someone had run deliberately through 2 things that should not be connected. The next morning, I put on my work boots and said, "Hey, random thing, what's Theo's last name? I'm sending a parent email." She clipped her hair up and didn't look at me. "Martinez. Why?" "Just curious," I said. It sat between us, the most useless sentence in English. At the Saturday clinic, Theo stood with a cone under his foot and a grin that put you on his side before you decided if you wanted to be. He clapped for the kids. He made them hold a plank and counted slow, a little joke to get their eyes rolling. When the water break came, Rachel walked over and handed him a granola bar from the PTA cooler. He took it like it meant more than grain and honey. The wind lifted the corner of the field banner. 5K, 4 books! And the ties flicked against the chain link. I told myself I was being an idiot. I told myself TX Babe was how everyone in Austin talked to everyone. I told myself reimbursements were the oil that made PTA machines run. I told myself a lot. Then, on the family iPad again, Monday night, I saw a photo on Rachel's camera roll, taken an hour after the clinic. She was smiling with Theo in a mirror that wasn't ours. No kids in the frame. The geotag under the date said Hyatt Town Lake. In the background was a white duvet and a floor lamp with a wide shade. The picture was cropped tight like a secret. My stomach dropped so fast, it felt like a mistake. I set the iPad down and walked to the sink. I turned on the water and let it run. The sound filled the kitchen steady as rain. My hands gripped the counter until my knuckles went a dull white. When I walked back, Rachel was in the doorway with a dish towel slung over her shoulder. "Babe," she said. "Hey, did you get that fixture in at the office? The one with the... Are you okay?" "You got a Venmo from Theo?" I said. The words came out calm, like a test I already knew the answers to. It said, "FX Babe." She blinked once. Then she laughed, something light and easy. "Mike, everybody on Venmo writes dumb stuff. You've sent me a donut emoji for toothpaste." "I also saw reimbursements from him to you, and then hotel charges on our card the same days." I swallowed. "And a photo, Rock. A photo of you and him, at the Hyatt. No kids." Her hand tightened on the dish towel. She looked down at it like she'd never seen a towel before. "Okay," she said. "Okay, breathe. First, those reimbursements. I fronted cash for PTA runner's bibs. He paid me back. That's normal. Second, the hotel. Don't be dramatic. We used their conference room for a sponsors meeting. They comped it if we bought 2 coffees. It went to our card by mistake and I was going to move it." "And the picture?" I asked. My voice went smaller than I meant. "The one in the room." "We took a picture in the lobby mirror," she said, too fast. "You know how reflective art is everywhere now. It was a joke for the committee. Because he was trying on the free 5K shirt." "In a mirror with a bed behind you?" She pulled the towel off her shoulder and threw it onto the counter as if it weighed too much. "You're reading into it like a crazy person." "I don't feel crazy," I said. "I feel like a plug got pulled and I can hear the water running out." She took a breath and dropped her voice to something careful, like she was walking on a floor she'd mopped herself. "Mike, I am trying to raise money for our kids' school. Theo is helping. Yes, he flirts. Yes, I let him. It gets sponsors to write checks. Do I love that? No. Do I do it because people don't buy bake sale cupcakes like they used to? Yes. Is that a crime? No." "He called you babe in a money app," I said. "It's Venmo," she said, "not a diary. What do you call somebody in a note when you want to be sure they know they're special?" She flinched. "Don't do this," she said quietly. "Don't make me the villain because I'm good at hustling for the school." I stared at her and felt the shape of the next few weeks stack up in my head like ladders. I thought about Eli and the way he looked for his mom on the sideline after he scored, like he couldn't quite believe he'd done it until he saw her face. I said, "I want you to be careful. With the money. With him. With my name." "My name," she repeated like it was heavy, like it hurt her to lift. "God, Mike." The PTA chat that week was a flood. Rachel peppered threads with "we've got this" and "keep the receipts" and 100 emojis I never knew she had time to pick. I nodded to her texts at home and changed an outlet in the den and kept thinking about a mirror in a hotel room. When you wire a house, you draw your lines, you mark your conduits, and you tape them in neat arcs. If something goes wrong later, you can walk the path and know where it split. In real life, the splits happen in laughter you choose not to check, and babe. You let slide because the kids are in the room and your hands are wet. On Saturday, Eli had a game at Zilker Park, and the sky did that Texas thing where it pretends to be fall for exactly 90 minutes. The first half, Eli ran hard and missed a goal by a foot, and he looked at the sideline with his hands on his hips and grinned anyway. Rachel stood near the team bench, phone to her ear, one finger in her other ear to hear over the cheers. I waved. She didn't see me. Theo was a few yards away, arms crossed, watching the kids like his eyes could will them into better shapes. I set up my phone on a mini tripod to stream from my mom, who lives in San Antonio and swears by watching Eli's games like mass. The camera caught our boy, then the midfield, then Rachel's shoulder as she stepped out of frame with the phone pressed to her ear. The minutes ticked over. 10, 20, 30. At some point, the camera showed the sideline without her. At some point, I realized she hadn't come back. "Where's Mom?" Eli asked at halftime, breathless, cheeks red. "On a call," I said. "Sponsors." My throat did a weird little skip on the last syllable. "When I scored, I looked for her," he said. "I couldn't find her." "You played great," I said, and I meant it. I wanted my words to stick to him like fierce little bandages. Rachel came back with 2 minutes in the game. "Sorry," she said. "Huge donor call." "How long?" I asked. I already knew I was going to check the call log later. I am not proud of this. I am not proud of a lot of things. She looked at me like I had asked how long she had been breathing. "As long as it took," she said. After the game, Theo waved the kids in and bent down to clap them on the shoulders like a squad leader in a movie. Parents clapped. The whistle swung from his neck. Rachel walked over and handed him the cooler list she'd printed. They stood close. His hand grazed her wrist and stayed 1 second too long. "Want to get the sponsor banners up at the field for next week?" he asked her. "We can do it quick Monday night." "Sure," she said. "I'll bring zip ties." The words were small and ordinary and burned like a filament. At home, Eli took a nap. Rachel went to the grocery store for flour and whipped cream, and I stood in the doorway of our bedroom with my phone the way a man stands in a doorway before he decides whether to walk into a bad room. I opened the call log, her last outgoing call, right there, 1 hour, 12 minutes. The time stamp ran straight through Eli's goal, and the halftime huddle, and the moment where he had looked for her and she was not in the frame. I sat on the edge of the bed. I looked at my hands. You think there's going to be a big sound in a moment like that? There isn't. There's a small quiet inside you that gets bigger and bigger, and if you don't do something with it, it will take all the air. Monday, when the sun slid down behind Mopac and the neighborhood lights clicked on one by one, I drove past the school and saw Theo and Rachel at the field. The sponsor banners lay in a roll between them, a snake of nylon. They laughed at something I couldn't hear. I pulled into a far spot and watched from my truck with the window down. Night games were going on 2 fields over. The sound came in waves, cleats on turf, parents in lawn chairs, the low electricity of kids at dusk. Theo lifted the banner and held it against the fence. Rachel stepped in, too close for a task that simple. He leaned his chin toward her hair and said something. She tipped her head up and laughed. They were 2 people in a bubble made from 1,000 tiny permissions. The PTA meeting that Thursday was in the school library because the cafeteria smelled like floor cleaner and old pizza. Rachel ran the agenda, fast and good. She kept us moving so nobody would look too hard at any one thing. We have 3 reimbursements outstanding, she said, eyes on her list, 2 from the Martinez account, 1 from the Hyatt because their system messed up. It'll all be settled by Friday. She didn't look at me when she said Hyatt. I looked down at the paper and the sharpened pencil someone had handed me like we were in 3rd grade. After, I walked with her to the parking lot. Rachel, I said, I need to ask this straight. Are PTA funds paying for anything that isn't PTA? She stopped under a pole light that made everything look a little too honest. Are you asking me if I'm stealing, she said, from a school? I'm asking if money and something else got mixed. If lines got blurred enough, you can't tell the difference. She stared at me a second, then shook her head. You're not being fair. I'm trying to be clear, I said. Then be clear at home, she said, and she got in her car and went. Friday morning, the Venmo buzzed again on the iPad. Another note from Theo. For that thing, you are the best. The amount wasn't big, the note was. My thumb hovered and I didn't tap. I set the iPad down. I drove to a job near South Congress and checked a bad outlet. And when I took the faceplate off, there was a wad of painter's tape behind it where somebody had tried to fix a loose wire with a prayer. I cut the power. I did it right. You get one house. You wire it clean or you don't sleep. You wire it clean or you don't sleep. The next game was Saturday, late morning, the sun doing the cruel thing where it finds your neck no matter where you sit. Eli played like a kid who had practiced with a cone in his room. He threaded a pass to a teammate so sweet it made a sound in my throat. Rachel stood close to the midfield, away from the moms she usually laughed with. Theo took the sideline in his black cap and his whistle, a little kingdom of turf under his feet. Right at the end, when our team was up 1, a ball went out and rolled near the bleachers. Eli chased it, disappeared for a second behind a knot of people, and my camera, set to stream for my mom, lost him in the frame. My heart threw itself against my ribs like a bird. You know it's fine. You know it's a soccer field with 100 parents and no place for a 10-year-old to vanish. Your body doesn't care. I stood up so fast my chair fell back. I found him. He popped back into view, ball at his hip, grin wide. It took a full minute for the rush in my ears to quiet. Rachel walked past me then, phone in her hand, not looking. She stepped to Theo, too close again, and said something I didn't hear. He smiled, slow. The whistle cord made a little shadow on his shirt. I don't know what made me stand. The sun, the hour and 12 minutes, the babe, in black letters I hadn't asked for? Maybe it was Eli's face, flushed and happy and looking for us on the sideline and needing the simple truth of who we were there to be. I stood and walked to the edge of the field, past the line that says, "Parents, stay here." I stopped at the place where white paint meets grass, and I said, not yelling, steady, the way you tell a room that power is off before you move a wire? Rachel, are these funds PTA or your date? Her head snapped toward me. Theo straightened, like someone had pulled a string in the middle of his back. A couple of parents went quiet, with their mouths half open. The ball rolled a little, and the ref blew his whistle twice in a different kind of tone, like everybody ought to reset. Mike, Rachel said, not here. Here, I said, because here is where our son plays, and here is where my name lives. Are those hotel charges, those reimbursements, those little notes on Venmo, are they for the kids, or are they for you and him? I'm not doing this, she said, her voice cracked. I'm not. Theo said, man, step back. Don't make it weird. It's already weird, I said. You made it weird when you paid my wife for that thing the same day our card covered your hotel. You made it weird when she took a picture with you in a room where kids were not. You made it weird when she missed her kid's goal because of a call that lasted an hour and 12 minutes. A ripple went through the sideline that felt like a wind shift. No one shouted. That's not how this kind of town does it. They stiffen. They look anywhere but at you. They pretend to check a schedule that isn't there. One mom stepped to Rachel and touched her elbow like a friend who was also a witness. "This is harassment," Theo said, but his voice wasn't sure. "You can't accuse—" "I asked a question," I said. "PTA or your date?" Rachel's face changed. For a second I saw three expressions cross it and try to live there at the same time. Anger, shame, tired. What landed was tired. She looked at me and shook her head very small, like something inside it had clicked into place. "The money is clean," she said. "The optics are not. I'm stepping down from the committee." Theo blinked. "Rack, Shah." She didn't look at him. She looked at me. "I will call the treasurer and I will write a note. You will not have to close your eyes when the iPad buzzes. That's what I can do." It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a lie. It was the one sentence I could live with in public. "That's the right first step," I said. The ref blew the final whistle and the kids cheered and ran toward their parents, not knowing that the adults on the sideline had been playing a different game. Eli flew at us, and for a second Rachel and I both reached out, our hands landing on the same shoulder, then falling away. He didn't see. He was grinning too hard. "Did you see my pass?" he said. "Coach said it was chef's kiss." "I saw," I said. "I'm proud of you." I let those words go into him like water. Whatever mess I had made or would make, I wanted that to be true first. That night, Rachel sent a message to the PTA board. She CC'd me. She wrote that she loved the work, but for the sake of clarity, she was stepping down from the fundraiser and someone else should finish the accounting. The treasurer, a woman who never uses exclamation points, wrote back with her, wishing Rachel well and asking for receipts. Rachel sent a photo of a neat stack, then 3 more photos, like she wanted the pile of paper to say something softer than her words. I drove to the bank on Monday and closed the joint credit card. The teller asked if I wanted to move the balance to a single one, and I said yes. I went home and sat with Eli while he did math. He counted in tens and then forgot how to come back down to ones and then remembered. I drank water and stared at the wall and felt the space inside me settle like dust in sunlight. People at school watched us without looking. That's a skill you get in suburbs. Drop off and Dad said, "Hey, good game," and meant I heard something. At HEB, a mom bumped my cart and said, "We all make mistakes," like she had a line she'd been practicing and wanted to use it kindly. I nodded and tried to believe both things about one life. Rachel and I didn't blow up. We didn't smash plates or throw rings. That isn't who we were. And also, there was Eli, who still had homework and needed rides. We were 2 people who had built a thing, found rotten wood in one part of it, and now had to decide which beams to replace and whether the house would feel like itself again when the hammering stopped. One night, she sat with me at the kitchen table after Eli had gone to bed. The table had a long scratch from when we'd moved it and dragged one leg by mistake across a screw head. We never sanded it out. It felt honest under my hands. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" I asked, and I made my voice not a trap. "For letting the borrow and payback game get too cozy," she said. "For pretending the attention was all for the school when some of it was for me. For thinking the note on Venmo didn't matter because it wasn't spoken. I closed the card," I said. "I'm not doing the pay and hope thing with anybody." "Okay," she said. "That's fair." "We're going to be okay if we keep it boring for a while," I said. "Receipts, boundaries, no late-night banner parties, no clever notes." She laughed once through her nose, and it sounded like a small animal trying to make itself known. "You and your wires," she said. "They keep the lights on," I said. She resigned officially at the next PTA meeting. She didn't give a speech. She sent cookies and a note that said, "Thank you for letting me serve." Theo stood in the back of the room with his cap in his hand and looked everywhere but at me. In a week, he took a job at another rec center across town. No announcement, just a schedule with a different name on it. People said, "Oh, bummer," and then asked where the bake sale sign-up was. I wrote an email to the board stating that we would cover any mixed charges on our card and asking that all reimbursements go through the treasurer, not directly to volunteers. It was boring on purpose. Boring saves you from fire. Eli kept playing. He taught himself a new move from a YouTube video and practiced it next to the couch until the dog refused to get off the rug unless we bribed her. He asked less often where Mom was on the sideline. She was there, on time, phone in her bag. Sometimes she slid the phone out when it buzzed and then slid it back when she caught me looking. She was trying. I could see it. Try is not everything. It is not nothing. A month later, I stood on our back porch and listened to the faint highway hum and the neighbors' wind chimes that only ring in east wind. The iPad was inside, dark. My phone was face down. Rachel came out and leaned against the post, her shoulder near mine, but not touching. "I mailed the last receipt," she said. "Good," I said. The treasurer said the audit is clean. Good, I said again and felt the word do. Small, good work. She sighed. I miss when we didn't know how to say audits about our own life. We can call it keeping our stuff straight, I said. She nodded. I can do that. We didn't fix it with one talk. We didn't break it with one talk either. It was 100 small choices, and like the jobs I do, some of them were behind walls where nobody could see. I kept my hands where I could see them. I asked my questions in daylight. I told the truth even when it made me feel like I was standing at the edge of a field saying a hard sentence in front of people I eat nachos next to on Fridays. I wish I could say I never think about the mirror photo. I do. I wish I could say, "TX babe," makes me laugh now. It doesn't. But I don't watch the iPad like a campfire anymore. I don't measure my worth by whether Rachel keeps her phone face down. I measure it by whether Eli finds me in the stands, and if he does, whether my eyes are open and my hands are empty. The thing I didn't expect was how many people came out of the quiet to make the right noises. A dad texted me later that week, "Good on you for asking the question." The treasurer sent a one-line email that said, "Clarity is kindness." My mom called and told me she'd watched the whole game, missed the drama, and cried at Eli's pass anyway. That mattered more than I thought it would. When you wire a house after a fire, you use new conduit. You run it clean and tight. You label it so that the next person who opens the panel knows what's what. You do it even if nobody will see it. I think we're doing that. I think we might be okay, or something that looks a lot like okay when the light hits it early in the morning and you're not trying to make it more than it is. Would you have called it out on the field or kept it private and risked the whispers? Where do you draw the line between helping the school and letting someone buy a piece of you with reimbursements and a wink? If you want more stories like this, stick around, leave a comment, and subscribe.